And Žižek, over to you. Do we need to eradicate the relentless gamification of life?
It doesn't matter if we need or not, we cannot. Because I think that existential philosophers like to emphasize mortality, ultimate limit, but I think that human life is, on the one hand, mortal and so on, but always accompanied, it's part of our symbolic order we dwell in, by something that I cannot but call undeadness. And here the game enters. Undeadness in the sense of you act as if you can return to it, do it again, and so on. So all human identity is based on the difference between the two deaths, the biological death and the symbolic death. I will not lose time, just give you an example of the most radical. It appeared in modernity well before video games, and it reached its high point with video games. Already if you read it, I didn't, it's too boring, but some people, the sad Justine Juliet. When Justine, I think, it's tortured, raped again and again, but as it were in the next scene, she appears beautiful as before, and she always, as a victim, can restart her life. Now you will say, what has this to do with our today's experience? Isn't the same, when I was a child, I don't know what they watch today, I watched those Tom and Jerry cartoons. Did you notice the same logic? Tom or Jerry get smashed by a car, cut into slices, and it goes on. In the next scene, he is already here. So it's this idea that as if you have, it's here that game begins for me. You have your direct life, but when you start to act as if this direct life, as if you can return to 0 point and then start again, so that the real loss, death, is the second death. And this is in the, I played them years ago, now my son is playing them, he's more intelligent, the primitive early video games, where it was like, usually it was, you have 5 lives or 10 lives, you are shot down, you can begin again, and so on. Again, what I wanted to emphasize is that this difference between the two deaths, this opens up the space for a game. And it's not simply, I will conclude immediately, not simply that on the top of our mortality you have another level where you are almost immortal. It's almost the opposite, that the game allows you to treat your real life as one of virtual multiplicities where you can go back and start again. So I am all for gamification. Good and evil, I don't care. Give me more of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our...
Oh,
you have one more point.
You were right. You remember my old joke, some of you may know it, this is how language works. You know how I joined the applause before? I played the Stalinist game. This is a big topic. Look at speeches by both types of bad guys. Hitler, the fascist leader, when he gets, of course, the thunderous applause at the end, he just receives the applause. A Stalinist leader, even Stalin, he gives a speech, everybody applauds. What does the Stalinist leader? Check it up on YouTube, do. He stands up and joins the applause. Why? Because the idea is, I'm like you, which makes him even worse. I'm just one of the servants of the people. We all serve that higher dimension that you mentioned before. Sorry, it will not happen again.
Or will it? Slavoj, I want to bring you in on this because obviously the games that we're playing are exist within a context, right? In the context of global capitalism, and the rules of those games are still largely determined, not all of them, I'm sure we can find exceptions, but by and large on this idea of competition. And are they not therefore kind of entrenching the sort of ideological level of haves and have-nots, winners and losers? Are they actually not like a bit of a sort of social lubricant to justify the sort of inequalities that we find within global capitalism in that sense?
Yes, but first, a very brief theoretical point. I agree with some of my friends, not fully, but like Varoufakis, Jody Dean and so on, who claim that what is happening today is that liberal competitive capitalism is already approaching the end. I think it is meaningful to say, although the term is maybe too radical, it's not as simple as that we are entering the era with new feudal masters. These ultra-rich corporations are owned by individuals. How did Bill Gates become so rich? He monopolized our commons. If we want to communicate, we have to go through his products. So it's not profit in the sense of exploiting his workers, it's rent. We are paying him a rent. We are paying Jeff Bezos a rent, and so on and so on. So this is a new phase, but let me go to the basic point about games. I also agree with both of you who got it correctly that there is no spontaneous tendency towards equality, inequality in games, but they are contradictory. In what sense? First, there is for me a strange psychological fact that often you cannot say something in reality, but if it's put in the terms of a game, even theater play, you can do it. For example, the great classic Jane Austen's Mansfield Park. A young couple is in love. They are too constrained to say this openly. But they select a Shakespeare piece, I think, where they, in the game, but they can say it. So this is what Jacques Lacan meant, I think, when he says this, that the truth has the structure of a fiction. And I deeply believe that, in this sense, masks are never just masks. When we adopt a mask to play a game, we can bring out there something that we are not ready to confront in our so-called real life. In this sense also, let me give you another example. I'm ashamed to mention it. It's so stupid, but you saw for weddings and the funeral that moment when Hugh Grant declares love. You see, he does it in the sense of, he's stuttering, repeating himself, but precisely through this apparent breakdown of the game, he gets his message through. Sometimes the failed game is the only way to get the message through. That's why, incidentally, I hate male chauvinists who, when a woman reports to be raped, they say, but you see, she contradicted herself and so on. Sorry, but I would be very distrustful if a woman were to give totally perfect cold report on. Okay, I wouldn't discard it, but you know what I think? Sometimes the truth can only articulate it through failures and so on and so on. So the last thing I want to emphasize this. I don't believe in going deep into your inner self. Sorry to be brutal, if you go deep into it, you find deep shit there, I claim. Monstrous fantasies and so on. I believe that the only way to overcome yourself is to identify with your mask. Just to conclude, that I don't drag on, my favorite movie here, Rossellini, you should see it, you can get it on YouTube, from 1960, I think, with Vittorio General della Rovere. De Sica plays a poor guy who is caught, it's still occupied Italy, caught by the Nazis, and since he looks exactly like General della Rovere, a big name of resistance, they tell him, we killed della Rovere, but resistance that we have in prison don't know this. So go there, pretend that you are General della Rovere, and people will confide in you, and you will tell us that. You can guess what is the ending. He identifies so much to his role that he is ready to die. He doesn't say anything, and he is shot publicly as General della Rovere. In this sense, I am for good alienation. Who cares about his real self, a poor beggar, and so on? In this complete identification with another, you can find freedom, but also horror. Did you see with Jim Carrey, his best film, I think, did you see The Mask? Where he is completely free, but nightmare comes out. This complete freedom to do what you want, he experiences it as a nightmare. So in this more precise sense, I think that first there is something liberating in games and cliches. Can you imagine how horrible life would have been if you were to tell just the truth sincerely, without hypocrisy? There is no life without hypocrisy. Hypocrisy gives me, and it works. That's a game. I will conclude. Don't be afraid. I know.
I'm definitely taking you to theme
evil
3.
French spirit. I see it. Yeah. No. Look, I meet you, let's say, or you on the street, and I say, I'm so glad to meet you. What if in my mind, as it's probably the case because I'm an evil guy, shit, why didn't I note you 1 minute earlier to go to the other side of the road? And we both know it. But nonetheless, although we know that this is mostly a hypocritical, empty forum, it works performatively as a sign of kindness. This is for me a good alienation. I hate people who open themselves up, and I don't want to hear them. I mean, all the dirty deeds. We need hypocrisy, sorry.
Um,
As a Stalinist.
as the culture becomes increasingly virtual, will our lives actually become more and more like a game? And is that something we should be concerned at all about? Slavoj, I'm back to you on that one, but I'm conscious that we do have not much time.
Who talks too much. So
I will seek to rein you in on this one, so everyone else can come in too.
Okay, I will really try to be brief. First, just one idea. I think what will be the future and so on. Maybe you know more technically, but I know people who know people who know people who are really doing it. Doing what? Wired brain. I wrote a book on it. Now I learned that it's really, we are coming to that. They already have machines which in a non-invasive way, literally, 80%, not 100%, when you think about something, they can reproduce it. Now, usually, as always with dangerous technological invention, they put a good spin of it. They say, you see, isn't it wonderful, that guy who is totally crippled, he will be able to move objects just by thinking about it. Yes, but it goes the other way around also. That they will be able to implant from outside things into you. This will be literally a game changer. Literally. Like we will have even, I think, to redefine humanity in what, because the basic sense of our being human is whatever you think you are out there, I'm free in my mind. What if the machine gets access to this? So, to conclude, I have a wonderful joke which I think fits perfectly the opposition between realism and game universe. Maybe some of you know it. A wonderful anecdote from World War I, when in 1917 or what, things began to go worse for Germany and Austrian Empire. From German headquarters, they send a telegram to from Berlin to Vienna to Austrians saying the situation on our part of the front is serious but not catastrophic. You can imagine what the Austrians answer. They said, on our part of the front, the situation is catastrophic but not serious. This is what games enable you, to take catastrophe in a non-serious way. And maybe, just maybe, this is a way to do it. Because I don't believe in this pragmatism, look at the situation coldly and so on and so on. If you look at the situation coldly, then let's be very clear. The history is moving towards a new global war. Don't bullshit it. And only this crazy stance will maybe stop.
Thank you very much.